Let me tell you a bit about who we are, what we do, and why do we do what we do. It's good to have a background first. Look, there's tons of nonprofit organizations like us who pontificate. They're not activists, they don't do anything, they just write articles and blogs, and nothing comes out of it. Number one. Number two, they're all bought and sold by either the right or the left, by either the Koch brothers on the right or by George Soros on the left. We are the only independent, fiercely independent organization. We're not bought and sold by anyone. We don't follow any pack. We have, in the last 12 years, built this organization into 300,000 followers. We have 80 sponsors on purpose. I don't want to have an 800-pound gorilla dictating what we say, what we do. We're here for one thing only, is to teach people and empower people how you create real wealth. Today, I know it's it's not politically correct to talk about capitalism and wealth creation and the rich and everything. Well, this is the most important thing out there because this is what's going to make you free. Money is about freedom. It's not about acquiring things and boasting what you have. It's about freedom. Once you have enough money, you can tell anyone to go and take a hike because you have established yourself. Each one of us has to become a cash flow sustaining money machine because nobody gives a hoot about you. Not your boss, not the government, not anyone. So if you don't take care of yourself and your needs, you're a dead man. This is extremely important to understand. This is the bedrock of what we do. We want to create an army of millionaires and billionaires. This is how you stand up to the government, to your boss, to any senator, to any congressman, because you don't need them. You don't work for them, they work for you. You bankroll their campaign. Yes, this is about power and influence. I'm not shy to say it. We're not going to abide by anybody's agenda. This is our agenda. And anybody who's going to come our way, he's either squashed or totally put aside. We have to wake the fuck up. The country is bankrupt. The government is totally incompetent. Nobody cares about anybody anymore. It's all about me, me, me. You have to think above the me, me, me. It's something bigger than you and me. It's the future of a nation. It's the future of freedom, the future of capitalism. This is the future. Don't be bogged with your work. Oh, I'm too busy, Ziad. I have to do this and do that. This is petty bullshit. What are you doing? Running billion-dollar companies? None of you is. Once you run a billion-dollar company, you can tell me this. None of you runs that. So, and in order to get there, believe it or not, you have to think much bigger than your little cocoon, your little universe, your little job. This is not about jobs creation. This is about wealth creation. I love it when I look at the government. Oh, we've created X number of jobs and we've created Y number of jobs. This is all wrong. Jobs is not going to get you freedom, wealth, or anything. I never heard any president or candidate saying, I'm here to create an environment that's conducive to wealth creation. Nobody talks about wealth creation. You're not supposed to be wealthy. You're supposed to be disinformed, misinformed, stupid, obedient sheep. And nobody says like this because they're afraid, because, oh, I'm going to be cancelled if I say this. Cancelled by who? oh, I'm going to feel, isolated. Well, I've been saying this for 12 years. And my supporters have grown bigger and bigger. If you just try, we have to get rid of this mentality. The mentality we have that, you know what, we're always afraid. We're always now afraid. I mean, I remember when I immigrated. I'm a legal immigrant. The United States, back in 1982, I was a teenager. The sky was the limit. Bull market, Ronald Reagan, capitalism, greed is good. You could dream about anything you wanted. This is America. Today is the age of diminished expectations. Oh, I'm happy I have a job. I'm happy. You should be happy that you have a roof on top of your head. You should be happy that you and your wife are working at 2-3 jobs. You should be happy. At least you're surviving. Some other people are dying of hunger. This is now our expectations, surviving, happy to have a roof on top of my head. I mean, don't you see this? Don't you feel this? Don't you want to do something about it? Or just, follow the crowd. Yeah, fine. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to get in trouble. Let me follow the crowd. Do you ask yourself these questions? This is why I started 12 years ago the council. July 4, 2010. Why did I start it? Some people ask me, why did you start this? Well, because I saw the stupidity and incompetence of people on Wall Street and from the government who put us in the 2008 crisis. Nobody knew nothing, and they still don't know anything. And forget about the kids' financial education. No financial education. They remember the batting average in baseball, like, what the hell this is going to help, rather than the basics of money and finance and economics, which is what they should learn. This is not an organization, Financial Markets Council. It's a movement. So if you're sick and tired of the status quo and you want to do something about it, you join forces with us. We'll empower you, we'll teach you, and we'll make it happen. Anyway, this is the foundation. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Now, a lot of people do this. They bring on the panel economists. Useless because they're always wrong. Or professors or academics from Ivy League colleges, Wharton, Harvard, Stanford. And they think they know nothing. They know nothing. They live in their ivory tower. They haven't made a buck. They're protected by the colleges. They get a tenure. Nothing. We do not use this strategy. We only invite panelists and experts who know their stuff inside out in every single asset class you can imagine. Real estate, private equity, oil and gas, healthcare, Bitcoin, fintech, you name it. These are all experts who run their businesses, who make money, who lose money, who learn from their losses, to teach you, empower you, educate you. This whole thing is about how do you make money. And I hope you're here for that, not like a theory of economics, what this guy says or what Biden said or what this guy, Secretary of Treasury Yellen, total incompetent. Yeah, it's on tape. She is incompetent. Says, this is not this. This is about empowering you. How are you going to go from point A to point B to point C and make wealth, create wealth? That's what it is. And they tell me it's all about money. Yes, of course it's all about money. What is it about? Because money will get you freedom. What is it about? Be a nice guy? Be obedient? This is what it's about? It's all about that. It's all about money, power, and influence. Either they have it and you are their subject, or you have it. Do you want to have it, or you want to keep observing? 99% of the people out there are observers. Very few are players. Do you want to stay an observer, or do you want to be a player? You want to be a player? We know all the tools, all the resources to be a player. This is why we teach our friends, our people, our constituents how to do that. And this is why we're going to talk today about Bitcoin, NFT, tokenization, DeFi, 4 amazing areas where you can make a ton of money without the help of any government. This is why in the recent polls, a lot of the younger people are voting for Trump away from Biden because they are becoming capitalists, because they're relying on these 4 tools to make money. They can't make money getting jobs, especially the young one, the Gen Z and the millennials. They can't make money anything. So the ways of making money is becoming more and more limited. So how do you make money? By learning about DeFi, Bitcoin, and all that kind of stuff. Nobody's going to teach you these things. You either go for yourself and learn them from the experts, or there's nothing you can do. You only have to learn them from the experts, because they will share with you also their failures, not just their successes. And you only learn from your failures. You don't learn from your successes. Anyway, this is what this conference right now is all about. And we brought 4 distinguished experts and businessmen and entrepreneurs who have excelled at understanding the business, making money, and moving forward. So I'd like to start by each one of them giving a small introduction about themselves, like 1-2 minutes, starting with Barry, and we go through the line.
Sure, I'm a government worker and I'm a professor in economics. At least he smiled, right? No, my name is Barry Monet. I have a 27-year-old IT firm called Computronics out of Stamford, Connecticut that focuses on providing computer security and network services for small, medium companies, mostly in the financial and legal space. My other hat is being very involved in the digital asset world, in which I've also wrote a book called Surviving and Thriving Bitcoin, Blockchain, and the Metaverse, and have been through several ups and downs, but definitely an interesting time.
Thank you, Barry.
Sure.
My name is Anthony Panaya. I'm a local to New York. I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Long Island. So I'm currently the executive vice president of Online Biz Builders, a marketing firm based out of Stamford and Long Island, currently rated one of the best marketing firms in Stamford and Long Island. On top of that, pretty much what I've always been is a serial entrepreneur, hopefully successful soon, but I specialize in diversifying a portfolio of a fortune of companies that dabble their hands in a multitude of variety that goes through different markets and tries to shake the ranks of what can be done, you know, with a company so young in the modern age.
You have your own mic, Andrew.
Hey guys, Andrew McDowell here. I am one of the co-founders of Beacon DeFi. We teach folks how to get on-chain and make money in DeFi without getting scammed. Because frankly, we are still in a Wild West space where if you click the wrong button, if you do the wrong thing, you are gonna lose money. And the first rule of making money in crypto is not to lose money.
Love it.
Yeah, my name's Tom Meredith, and despite my academic background, I've been an entrepreneur for many years in the computer business for over 40 years. I'm a patent holder in this space, so we've invented a number of technologies that we believe are the bedrock for a future in this space, bridging the world between Wall Street and the crypto world. And we have a lot going on, which I'll share, but been an entrepreneur for many years, 40 years in the computer business.
Thank you so much, Tom. Great team. I'd like to ask, okay, so this is how it works. I'm going to ask some questions to the moderators. They will address that. Then I will leave it up to you, the audience, to ask them any questions you want. So this is a very interactive discussion between myself and the panelists and yourselves and the audience. You can ask any question you want. There's no stupid question. As long as it's a question, not a comment. Some people go and pontificate for half an hour of the comment. We don't need your comments. We need you to really understand and learn from this. If at the end of the event, you don't go out of this room saying, wow, I learned something, meaning we have failed. And we don't like failures. And we don't fail. So it's really here to get you all the ammunition you need. And obviously after that, you can follow up directly with each one of the panelists. Establish a relationship, talk about that, learn about them, what they do, etc. This is really up to you guys to connect to the maximum. We don't charge commissions, we don't charge fees, we don't charge anything. Don't worry, we are a non-profit. So all the power comes to you. We're giving it to you on a silver platter to do that. And this is the most effective way we can make things happen. You know? So I'm going to start with Barry, my good friend Barry, who I've known now for 10 years. Barry, what do you see as the overall bullish forces that will continue to push digital assets into the mainstream?
Before I answer that, I just want to say thank you to Ziad, we never do, for leading this charge for capitalism and for growing our wealth and just not being a lemons or like everybody else. He has no ulterior motive, but to really help us all achieve. And by bringing us here, you really have to understand why you're here. It's like nothing else you've ever been a part of. And I am proud to be a board member and be with you for so long.
Thank you, Barry.
So with that being said, thank you, David. Do I get my check? So with that being said, you know, we all look back at some point in our life and said, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see that Google was going to take off? Why didn't I see that Amazon I should have invested in? Or you know, why didn't I know the car was going to replace the horse and buggy? The point is that it happens all the time in our life. It's when you stop and look at the bullish events or occurrences that are going on that will define that period. Everybody can look back and say, I should have, I would have, I could have, but it's understanding what's going on right now in front of you so you will be part of that bullish movement going forward. And I've come up with 4 different things that will define what is creating this bullish movement in digital assets. Number 1 is adoption. So it's becoming more commonplace. Business and people are beginning to utilize digital assets, whether it's Bitcoin or whatever it may be, the thousands of other versions of tokens and such. And they're using it in business and personally. They're trying to get away from the controlled masses of money. Number 2 would be technology advances. As in anything new, any technology or anything that eventually takes over the world, it starts clunky, it's difficult to use, and most people look away, like the internet originally. Well, digital assets and our whole world is becoming easier and safer to utilize. And that's the big thing. And Andrew touched on it. Don't lose money. Well, it is becoming safer. And with talking to people on this panel and listening, you'll learn how to protect what you will earn. Number 3, institutional investment. So there's your adoption and adaption. When the big guys get in and start looking at it, then that means something's going on. They will also drive the security and whatever regulations are needed and accepted. And lastly would be global reach. So we're going outside the local banking laws and we're creating a global, almost empire of money or bartering and what it means from person to person. No more will we have entities controlling us. And this is what Ziad's all about. So I believe those 4 things are what are really driving the bullish movement. And I didn't talk about the actual technology or anything like that. That's the overall things you have to look at. And I don't mind if anybody else has anything else to add to that.
Yeah, so Barry touched on it very well, and it's really important to understand that you have a lot of big entities like BlackRock and Vanguard, especially throughout the United States and other continents, that are controlling the narrative when it comes to the way the average dollar or the euro or whatever currency moves. And that's based on a banking system that's been put in place by the government, right? As Barry touched on, crypto is completely outside this. It's a 24-hour market. It is something that not only can the average Tom get in on, it's something that everybody can utilize. And the reason it's so bullish, as people would say, and it's really a bull run, is it makes it possible to move out of the limitations set in place by large corporations that are pretty much creating a structure that's manipulating the flow of the average currency. So it's giving us an opportunity to rattle the boat, as Ziad said earlier, and just establish a way where these entities that have been in place for hundreds of years, they can't keep the power, and it can give it back to the people.
Really beautiful. I want to say something. We can't have every question answered by each, but because there's not enough time. But I want to say something. Guys, business is war. This is not a walk in the park. You either beat them or they beat you. And believe me, they hate your guts. They want to control you. And they don't have no respect for you. So either you're going to work hard double and triple and outsmart them, and you can outsmart the biggest one of them if you're smart enough and if you do enough research. It's not that they're not gods. They make mistakes too. BlackRock, the stupid morons, love $2 billion on ESG. I said from the beginning, well, why are you putting your money on ESG? Oh, because the government wants them to, so I'll give you some breaks. Go and invite all these morons to invest in ESG. And they follow like sheep, all of them. Don't do exactly the reverse at what the government does, buys or sells. Do exactly the reverse and you'll always win. They're not here to help you, support you. They're here to break you. And I'm not being delusional or conspiracy theorist. No, I have access to more intelligence than any one of you here. And this is really what's happening. This is war to the fullest extent. You either abide or you beat them. I want to move to the next question for Andrew. Andrew, you've coached thousands of self-directed investors through their first on-chain moves. What are the common challenges investors face when transitioning from traditional finance to DeFi?
Thanks. So the first thing that is, I think, a big challenge for folks that are doing their first things on chain, entering their first positions, is just how radically different it is to be in a completely disintermediated, completely free financial system compared to traditional finance. So that means there's no back button. If you send $1 million to a dead address, that is gone. Yeah. If you click a button and approve a bad smart contract, it can do bad things to your wallet. If you have your seed phrase, essentially your cryptographic keys that are protecting you, on a digital environment and that gets hacked, there's no backseas. So freedom means self-custody, and it means a radical personal responsibility.
Thanks for exposing all my mistakes, Andrew. But you go through them. It's your money. You have to be in control.
Yeah, this is where you learn.
I mean, I'll give an example, because I think this is the important thing and the thing that I try to get across to the folks that are working with us. One of the first mistakes that I made is I lost $300 to slippage trading a couple of tokens on the Polygon blockchain back in 2021. I set my slippage too high and I clicked a button without fully reading it. And that $300 is gone. It's gone. There's no back button. So common mistakes are not understanding self-custody, not taking security seriously, and thinking that it's more like the traditional world than it is, when there is no middleman, there's no back button, and that is a huge advantage, but it's a completely new mindset shift.
Just to touch on slippage for those of you who don't know, just thinking of it in terms of fees, where now you go to your bank and it's all standardized. It's not in the digital world. Fees could be, just think of it as fees in simple ways. You could go pay different fees. If you set your fees too high, somebody's gonna grab it at that price. You can relate it to the stock market a little bit, but that's when he's talking about slippage. It's when you're not aware of the costs of doing the transaction.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
You gotta be aware.
Tom, Wall Street is warming towards investing in stable coins and tokenized hard assets. How do you plan to do so, considering it's such a new field and skepticism runs very high?
Well, we're seeing adoption of crypto by Wall Street now with the Bitcoin ETFs. We just heard that Ether ETFs was, someone said, is that real or?
Yep, 8 approved.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. So what's happening is that the days of being able to come up with an idea, just throw a token out there and 10,000 people buy it and it goes from a penny to $1 overnight. Those days are over. You've got 10,000, if not more, if not closer to probably 20, 30,000 tokens out there that are totally worthless. Kids in their basement coming up with ideas. Now it's getting serious. The big guys are stepping in. And what this is causing is obviously inflation in some of the assets that are accepted by Wall Street, Bitcoin being one of them, and now Ethereum. I personally have never been a big fan of Bitcoin. I don't see a real use case for it other than a store of value, but that's an aside. Ethereum has a use case in the fact that it powers the Ethereum network, where smart contracts were quite the innovation. So what's happening now is that Wall Street getting into this space, we've been trying to focus on creating a global competitor to Swift, because Swift is horrible. We went through their incubator program 10 years ago. They named us a top 10 global startup 2 years running because we adopted this new technology called this ISO standard that had just come out. Well, now it has become the de facto interbank transfer standard in Europe. They've dictated it, and eventually it'll get here to the States. It is the basis for the one-day ACH trading, if people are familiar with, we're eventually going to get to real time like so many other countries in the world. But so we've been trying to create this mesh between the financial world and the crypto world to make things more efficient, more decentralized, more that you can hold on to your cash. I'm dealing with a fellow who wants to put a sizable amount of money into us. He can't because 2 separate banks are holding his cash. He's had to go to the DOJ and has been fighting this for months and months and months to get his money. In a decentralized world, you can keep it all here and not put up with any bank BS. So it's just really incentivized me. I've been at this a long time, but trying to bridge the worlds that's where it gets critical, to allow people to have self-determination with their own coins on their own hard drive, but be able to take advantage of the sophistication of Wall Street and the products that are coming out. So this is the world that we've been bridging for the last 10 years, and we're just now coming out of stealth mode, working with central banks on a global scale and getting patents in this space to protect us from intellectual property. So it's been quite a challenge, but it's all coming to fruition.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tom. Anthony, how do you do your due diligence when looking at DeFi projects?
Yeah, so when it comes to due diligence, right, everything comes down to a marketing perspective, right? Every business is marketing and sales. If you can communicate the product, you can make money off the product. So what you want to do is when you look at what's going on with certain cryptos, you want to reverse engineer these marketing techniques that they're using. So what you want to do is look at, example, Twitter. You see a lot of forums getting together, people talking about the coin on Twitter. You got to see what the own developers and the actual coins pages are doing on Twitter, on Instagram, on Discord, on Facebook, a variety of platforms. Because what you can see is now we live in an age where you can buy likes, you can buy followers. There's so many different things. So you have to go through all of this, do your due diligence, because like he said, the money, it's in your hand in DeFi. Nobody's regulating it. It's 100% on you, right? So what you want to do is you want to identify, hey, a lot of new developers, they do pump and dumps. What they're going to do is they're going to pump up a crypto. They're going to market it. They're going to make it seem like it's the best thing since sliced bread. And who's the most vulnerable? Average people, especially people who use the internet a lot. You got people who reach out to meme pages on Instagram and they blow up a coin because GameStop and AMC had its meme stonk run up. So everybody thinks, well, GameStop and AMC ran up and people made millions. They're gonna run up this crypto, let me get in on it. Just because they go and they pay these meme pages a couple $1,000s to post about it, people are now buying this crypto. And then what happens is in the crypto community, we have a term, it's called the rug, where they pretty much pull the rug on from underneath you, because once the crypto goes from 1 cent to $2, $3, and now you're in, and there's millions of dollars in for people who took a couple $1,000s to put together a portfolio and develop a couple things, next thing you know, they just disappear. The money is traceable, but it's not regulated because you're in DeFi. So there are no systems put into place to go after the people who take your money. And a lot of the time, through MetaMask and other portfolios, you don't need to be verified to trade. There's no social security. There's no system in place to protect you. So you have to do your due diligence. The digital world is not full of good people. And that's what you got to focus on.
There are a few of us.
You got some good people. But at the end of the day, it's like, at the end of the day, you like a watch, you're gonna go buy a watch. Let's say you're gonna buy a Rolex. You wanna see the box and papers if it's used, right? You wanna compare it. You're gonna do your due diligence so you're not buying a $1,000 piece of scrap metal for 15 grand. It's the same thing. You need to look at if people are talking about this coin, real people, not just fake Instagram pages. You gotta go through the Discords, go through the communities, do your research. At the end of the day, we're in the era where you have access to everything in your phone. If you take the time to research opportunities, you might yield good results, but it takes the time and the effort.
Okay, listen, I want to ask you, go ahead, Andrew, you want to say something?
I just wanted to add like a 10-second addendum to that because I agree with everything that you just said. But something I want to highlight is we can actually read the code because the code, the token, is a computer program running on the blockchain. And it's like an open source code. So one of the ways that we verify and make sure that something is not a rug or not a scam is actually reading the code. And that can be a key addition to the due diligence.
And you don't have to be a master coder for that. There are a lot of new AI technologies in place that can read the code for you, that are easily accessible. Some of them are free, some of them are $9.99 a month. It's not coming to me right now, but there's a couple that are just super accessible. You just Google it and you can research on a code and you don't need to understand the code. But it'll tell you if there's any malicious software or any sort of malicious contracts put in place in these when these are being developed.
Let me back up just for a second because we're throwing a lot at you for those of you who don't know this world. But basically, what they're talking about is we have a US dollar. There's a Japanese yen. I mean, there's these established money systems. What we're talking about is totally outside that. This is the Wild West. Literally, we could make a new coin, the Al coin, in 5 minutes on here and offer it to the world right now. And it's up to the buyer, beware, to look at and see is the Al coin or token of any value and how would I use it to trade. So everybody thinks about Bitcoin and Ethereum. They have two totally different purposes. Bitcoin is like digital gold or a store, and Ethereum is a utility platform that has a coin to power it, okay? So without getting too deep, there's thousands, tens of thousands of others, and there are thousands coming up every day. I just created a coin last week. I'll give it to you later. You can buy it. It'll go crazy. Anyway, point is that it's all about your due diligence and understanding what you're getting into, and you don't have to do it all yourself. There are reputable services that help you with this, and not a plug, but that's what Andrew's company does. They help people choose the right coins. So, I mean, there's a lot of this stuff. You got to open your mind to this stuff. It's beyond just a dollar. That doesn't exist anymore. There are tons of different dollars. All right?
That's fantastic. What triggered you to go into these totally obscure domains, whether DeFi, NFT, Bitcoin, tokenization? I mean, you don't wake up, say, I want to do this, or you read an article, you said, I want to do this. There must be something, and I think the audience will appreciate this, deep inside in your character, independence, freedom, money-making, or something clicked saying, you know what, I'm sick and tired of all this banking system, central banks, control, etc. Because I think a lot of people who are listening to this, they say, this is all good, but you know, I never thought about this. Or what made you think about this? What triggered this whole process? Each one of you, I think it would be very helpful.
So my background is in technology, so this has been fascinating, what's going on. But money's at the root of it. You actually hit them all. Independence, money, being part of something that's bigger, that I've missed many transitional events in the world in my past, especially in this industry, and really looking at it and looking what will make this different and how I could be a part of it.
So especially, like say, you missed the internet boom, you missed investing in Apple or Microsoft early, etc. And then you said, why do I keep missing?
Yeah.
Let me open up my eyes and do some research and learn about this. That's, I think, one of the major reasons.
Sure.
Sick and tired of missing the boat.
Yeah. Also, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've always been an entrepreneur since college was probably the last job I had. I even created a company called Reno, Real Estate Innovation, with a couple of people from Europe. It was specifically focused on lending money against tokenized real estate. We didn't get there yet, but tokenization is essentially dividing up in digital ownership of a piece of property, say. So, I mean, the point is the entrepreneurism, the freedom, and the money.
Of course, always the money.
I do it for my kids.
Yeah. What about you, Anthony? What about you, Anthony?
So for me, it comes down to something a little more simple, and I'm going to use a very, very simple comparison. When I was a kid, I got my first job at McDonald's. I made $6 an hour. Back then, the dollar menu was still the dollar menu. Now, it's not the dollar menu. And that applies to everything. You know, I grew up in an immigrant family, so my parents worked very hard. So to see the value of the dollar depreciate because there are forces at work that disregard the amount of effort put into by other people. You know, you have governments who think that they can just keep printing more money. And who does that affect? That affects the middle class and people who need the money the most, right? And as a result, smaller businesses have to raise their prices. It's a whole chain, right, of inflation. Crypto isn't going to solve inflation, but it's a good start. Because you're taking the power out of a system that's forced against the workers that contribute to that very system. So people are stuck in a hamster wheel their whole lives. Now, we're in a different era. This is the renaissance of technology. But before the renaissance of technology, nobody would tell these secrets. The upper class kept their secrets, the middle class didn't know anything, and people were stuck.
Very true.
So now you have entrepreneurs who can break free, and crypto is a part of that wave. But we are blessed to be in a time with technology, right? So for me, it comes down to as simple as the dollar menu is not the dollar menu.
Thank you, Anthony. Brilliant. Andrew. You're in the hottest sector out there, DeFi. So what really made you say, I mean, people had no clue what was it?
So my entrance into crypto is, I think, very similar, and DeFi is very similar to, I think, anyone who gets into this, and that is I bought something. So it was late 2019. I was sitting at a steakhouse with a friend in Las Vegas, and he was telling me that he had just bought some RSR token. That a friend of his, said blah blah. The PayPal guys are behind it. I'm in Vegas. I don't do any research.
Yeah.
I do what we call in the DeFi space. I ape. Somebody gives me a tip, like, okay, I'm gonna put $1,000 in.
Yeah, Vegas.
So that was right before everything kind of went parabolic. So right around when these new, faster, cheaper DeFi chains started launching during the pandemic era, I was staring at my $1,000 that I had put into RSR and trying to understand why the hell it was worth 25K. Because I was like, the first thing that comes to your mind whenever you hit a 25X is, why didn't I put in way more?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I'm just started asking myself why. And I'm staring at the chart every day. I'm just obsessed with, now I'm trying to become an RSR expert because I'm trying to figure out when should I sell. I don't know. And that led me to the launch of Mbanq, the launch of the Polygon blockchain. And I thought that was going to be, the next thing. And it was. So I became obsessed with DeFi because it gave me more to dig into, more of a place to chase an edge and to chase alpha and to make money than just, randomly buying a token that my friend gave me a tip on. Because, the first thing I did, Ziad, is I went back to my friend and I asked him if his friend that gave him that tip had any more tips.
What did he say?
He didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I got to go find my own tips.
Yep.
So that's how I got obsessed.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Tom.
Well, I've got an interesting story. Anyone here remember Napster?
Of course.
Okay, well, Napster guy I don't think he was thrown in jail, but close, very close. The new decentralized systems that spread up after Napster, Kazaa, BearShare, Morpheus, these were truly decentralized systems. And I saw an opportunity and I said, well, geez, we could very easily wrap music in what they called a digital wrapper back then, and we could easily track using these fully decentralized systems. These are the precursors to DeFi that we know today. So started the company. I was a keynote speaker, Digital Hollywood. We pitched this true peer-to-peer. In fact, we called it P2P Cash. It was a company name, and we pitched it to Hollywood. And boy, I tell you, they didn't like us. They said, "Oh, you guys are stealing money out of my kids' scholarship. We're gonna crush you." And no, guys, look, you've got this fantastic distribution system already in place. People sharing music, discovering new artists. Wrap it up, wrap money up, and just have it done on a peer-to-peer basis. And we built this, and we pitched it, and we lost out to a guy named Steve Jobs. He showed a centralized system, and so we went up against iTunes and we lost. But the concept of this peer-to-peer or totally decentralized system, I got stuck with it. So I've been banging on this for the longest time. We try to do it for financial inclusion, free money transfer on a global scale, set up with all these countries in Latin America and Africa. Oh my God, trying to get things done in those countries, it's ridiculous. But every time we talk to a central bank or to a prime minister or a president of a country, we say, hey, we have something to help your people. They all said, screw that. What's in it for me? I said, well, what do you want to do? We need money in this country. I say, great. How do we do that? Well, we got a bunch of gold. Okay. Well, your currency is worth squat, but you do have a lot of gold here. We can probably tokenize the gold to back a bond in your currency. So that's the approach we've been doing. We've amassed over probably $500 billion worth of gold in several African countries, where we're creating the gold standard of a gold token to back their currencies, to back their bonds. And then we had to create an exchange, only X, to provide the liquidity. So it's been a very circuitous route going up against Steve Jobs, where kids were passing music, to all of a sudden raising money for the People's Republic of Congo because they've got tons and tons and tons of gold. So that's my sort of.
I commend all four of you on your creativity, entrepreneurship, guts, balls to go and create something like this. It's not everybody can do that.
I think it's called Meshuggah.
Exactly. Not everybody can do that. And this is why we like to encourage people to think this way, be independent, become a game changer, really. Okay, let's go a bit to NFTs. Talk to Barry about it. Barry, from your perspective, what are the most substantial benefits that NFTs bring to creators and buyers? And how do you address concerns about the market volatility, the copyright issues, and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, let's define an NFT, non-fungible token. So what that means is it's basically a digital asset that represents proof of authenticity or ownership in something. That's what it is. As opposed to a fungible token or something that's fungible. Fungible is interchangeable. One Bitcoin is the same as the next Bitcoin. Okay, that's the same, but an NFT that represents a picture is not the same as another NFT that represents a picture. So anyway, NFTs prove your ownership of something unique. That's what it is. In terms of what they do, how they're useful, what are the benefits? Number one, the information about it is stored on a blockchain, and blockchains are immutable. I mean, they can't be changed. It's like a decentralized or a database that's in multiple places but can't be changed, and it's set in stone. So it proves whatever it's portraying. So with an NFT, it's recorded on a blockchain, and therefore it proves your ownership and your control of the NFT, which represents something in this case. Number two are royalties. People who create NFTs or create products that are represented by NFTs, they can get royalties automatically because they're on the blockchain, their recording of them. You can have contracts that will send royalties back to the original person who created it. you think of music a little bit, is kind of like this. They send royalties back, no matter who moves it, when it's changed hands, when it's played, that sort of thing. It also gives tremendous market access on an international basis. NFTs can be marketed anywhere without restrictions per se, because we're dealing with crypto and that whole digital asset world. Some of the concerns about it, volatility, like anything else. It's a volatile world. There was a huge NFT explosion several years ago where you would literally buy an NFT, which would be a picture of, one of the ones I first bought was a woman, like an athletic woman, somebody created. And it was by the Gemini brothers, if you guys remember. They have Nifty Gateway, it's a platform. I'd buy it for $10, and you can turn around and sell it 20 minutes later to the next guy who will buy it for hundreds. So I was flipping $100 NFTs for thousands of dollars. And this is when it first came out. It's settled down quite a bit. But the volatility is still there. And value finds its mean at some point, and we're getting there. The other aspect with NFTs is copyright issues. So when you create a representation of something, are you stealing copyright? And that's still a gray area in the whole digital world in terms of what is yours, what can you copy, what is his, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of a quick overview of the whole landscape, so to say.
Very clear. Andrew, how do you stay ahead of the curve and identify the most promising projects? I mean, your industry is very competitive, very fast. How do you do it? And what criteria do you use to evaluate and assess these opportunities?
So it's really a mix of two things. So in DeFi, I believe that every edge that you can have boils down to either relational or technical alpha. So either you know someone, you know the devs, and you can get in early, or you have taken the time to read and research, or you've worked with someone who has. So I'm gonna give two quick examples here. So the first example is there was a project that our community made tons of money in. It was a product or a protocol called Radiant, and it is a cross-chain money market, which means you can lend and borrow against different assets, and you can lend it on the Ethereum mainnet, and you can withdraw what you've borrowed over on Arbitrum. And this was like new and cool. We bought this token at launch last year because we knew someone who knew the devs. So while everyone was kind of having to do their technical analysis and say like, hey, is this audited? Is this a rug? Is liquidity get pulled? We were just buying it. So that's easy mode, is just when you know the devs or you know someone who knows the devs, that's an unfair advantage in the crypto space. The other piece is technical alpha. And that is knowing how to review what protocols are audited, what the tokenomics of a particular token or the soundness of a new protocol is. But now, an example that I've kind of been shouting this in our free communities on Twitter, etc. I think that one really easy way to make money in DeFi over the next 18 months is to think about where retail inflows are going to go. So this is kind of a technical theory. I don't have any insider knowledge. It seems kind of obvious. Coinbase is the biggest centralized exchange in the US. Can't use Binance anymore. No other really big major players. So when new users come into DeFi, they are probably going to land on the base chain to do DeFi things. So getting exposure to tokens on chain in the base ecosystem, entering market making positions on base, on the assumption that there will be capital rotation into that ecosystem is another way. Is like kind of having theories like that. So it's who you know, and then it's having a team and having research to review to kind of make these more technical bets. And that is how you stay ahead, is kind of by being part of a group that is on the cutting edge of this and living and breathing it, so you don't have to be an expert on everything, because it is now matured to the point where no one can maintain an edge on everything by themselves.
Clear.
I got to add something here, because he
Please, go.
said something that probably went over most people's heads. Because I'm involved in it too, totally separate, not even talking to Andrew about it. So he's talking about Coinbase is what people know as the legal, publicly traded entrance into crypto. So that will continue. Coinbase has come out with their own ecosystem called Base. That's what he's referring to. It is exploding, and everything on there is exploding. Even the poop coin is exploding. It will be one of the strongest ones out there because it is connected to a nationally accepted organization that's on the stock market. So your average person will probably go through that, not go through these outside things. DeFi you can enter anywhere, but this is just about the only one that's sanctioned by Wall Street at this point. Number two is I wanted to bring up a fact that you had asked, how does he know? And Andrew went through the different aspects, saying dev or developers. Let me ask you a question. What is the number one thing you look for when investing in a new company to judge its success?
The people.
There you go. That's exactly what he's saying. We don't call them people, we call them devs.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the most important thing in any business. So begin to look at Coinbase if you're not on it. Most of the deep DeFi people don't use Coinbase, but that's a great place to start. And start looking at the Base ecosystem as to where you want to put your money beyond Ethereum and Bitcoin. There'll be greater opportunity in the smaller ones exploding. Remember, Bitcoin's at 70,000 or so. I mean, how much money do you make when it goes to 71 and how much did you put in? Where unless you put in a quarter of a penny in something in Base and it goes to $3, you just made millions.
I would say there has never been a time in history where you can make more money than today. Every time they tell you, oh, we can't make this kind of money, this was 10 years ago, 50 years ago, you are moronic. There's no better time than today. The problem is that people are not willing to learn, are not willing to go outside their comfort zone. They want to watch their TV, they want to watch their baseball game, they want to do stupidities, they want to browse the internet. You have to become a sponge. The more sponge, as Andrew said, as a people, you either have the people who know, you have to know one thing very, very well. You don't have to be Leonardo da Vinci, knowing about everything. Just learn one thing very, very well, excel at it. People are going to come after you. You're going to provide value added, etc. This is really one of the most important secrets of wealth creation, is that people don't focus on this. This is war. People are going to try to outsmart you, to crush you, to inflict you a bad reputation because they're jealous, because they can't reach you. This is what it is. You really have to do that. It's not that complicated. And such a big world with all these instruments, such thing, I mean, think about if you were one of the first one because of your research, who learned about Microsoft, Apple, DeFi, Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was at 11 and 12, etc. But always, people read in the journal, oh, this is hot. When it hits the journal, it's too late already. You're there, everybody knows about it. You really have to, and to get to that thing, it's really not difficult, but a lot of people don't think this way. They're saying, okay, let's see how it goes, then it's too late. I should have done this, I should have done that. And it applies everywhere, not just in real estate, in Bitcoin, in everything. That's key. Anyway, I have a couple of questions for Tom. Tom, there's a new global $1 trillion market for perpetual Bitcoin futures. Does your company plan to offer perpetual Bitcoin futures?
Yes. Right now, there's a brand new $1 trillion.
And first, if you can explain this.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's a brand new $1 trillion industry around what they call perpetual futures. So when you buy an option or a future, there's typically a term where the option or the future expires. So, and then in the case of futures, you may or may not have to actually take whatever the future is on the commodity, whether it's oil, gold, or Bitcoin. A company called DYDX around 3-4 years ago started a perpetual futures on Bitcoin. So in other words, you can buy a future to buy Bitcoin at a price, at some price higher, or to sell it. I think they do both ways on the spread, but it never expires. So in essence, what your position will go up and down forever. And the cool thing what these guys did was they basically created the market for these things that are just being created willy-nilly. So it's just created a $1 trillion industry out of thin air. Now the SEC, in their wisdom, does not allow perpetual futures in the United States. So this is all offshore. So since we're building an exchange anyway to allow all the stable coins, we've recently, in fact, I'm waiting to see the demo tomorrow, we have created like a futures and a perp futures engine for any commodity. So we're starting off with Bitcoin, but because our Middle East partners, they want us to do oil, our African partners want us to do gold, we're planning on doing T-bill futures, perps, perpetual futures in some of the largest traded markets on the planet, where we will be conducting a 24/7 marketplace to buy and sell these individual perpetual futures. So it really is, I mean, we saw this and stretched our heads and said, well, geez, we can do that. We could probably do it better and make an engine. So it's really cool stuff.
Yes.
It doesn't exist in the US. I mean, in simple terms, if any of you know what an option is, it's the right to buy something, a stock. But what comes with it, you have to pick a price and you have to pick an expiration. And what always happens if you get ever in the options is it moves in your direction right after it expires.
Let me ask you a question.
So it never expires.
It seems that way. I think that was the rule.
Tom and Barry, let me ask you a question. Why do you think is the reason it doesn't exist in the US? Is this a political reason? Is this a reason that you make too much money? I mean, in my experience, these guys try to do everything to regulate you to make money, to have you under their thumb. What do you think is the reason?
I have scratched my head on that many times, yeah,
Yep.
and I don't have a good answer.
It's political.
Yeah, no, it's a simple answer. People give our government the control to rule your life in the sense of making sure you don't make the wrong mistakes. So the exact opposite of what the crypto world is about, meaning that it is a complex environment to play in, and you're not smart enough to do it.
Exactly. You're a little kid. Don't play with these things.
Because when you lose it, you'll have nothing. So if I protect you, then you'll be okay. And it's kind of the way things are. So there is a line between regulations and being your overseers, and that's what we deal with every day.
I really can't agree with you.
So none of these things are available, but you can do them offshore without your name, without your anything except your wallet address.
And a VPN.
Right. Which is a fake address outside the nation.
Perfect. Anthony does Ethereum, Bitcoin, and other crypto services as a valid source of payments in handling mergers and acquisitions.
So yes and no, right? Just like we've talked about before earlier today on the panel, you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence on what type of crypto you're handling. But when it comes to the big ones that everybody knows, Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? There's huge upside and sustainability there. Because now, for example, somebody might need to move money from Dubai to a US account. The IRS is going to freeze it for a couple days. That's usually what's going to happen depending on the amount. They got to verify it, or sometimes you need your bank in Dubai to send over documents to your bank over here in the States, and it's just more time and effort that reduces efficiency, and that affects a business owner. So crypto is instant. You can move money in any time zone, anywhere in the world, instantly. You can shuffle around Ethereum, Bitcoin, and it makes it more efficient. And it decreases the chance of an outside source like the SEC or somebody coming in and stopping the deal for their own benefit. We've seen that happen a lot. You actually saw that, the SEC shut down Grayscale, and Grayscale fought against them to get their ETF approved, right? So they had nothing to lose. That's the reason they won. You wouldn't see any of the other big companies like Vanguard or BlackRock going after them. They had a lot more to lose, right? So it comes down to the fact that there is potential in the growing market. As things are getting more regulated and as OnlyX and Tom, and you have a multitude of entrepreneurs and a multitude of geniuses in the crypto world coming out with solutions where you can prevent that rug from coming out underneath you. You can prevent any sort of, long story short, it's becoming more sustainable. It's becoming more sustainable. And in the future, the near future, in a decade or two, it's going to become a form of currency. You have world governments adopting it right now. If I'm not correct, I think it was one of the Norway governments, right? The Swedish governments, Norwegian governments are starting to adopt crypto as forms of transferring money and doing deals between other countries. So it's becoming something that's adopted by foreign European countries, and it's slowly going to become the standard as time goes on. You know, just like people thought the iPhone wasn't going to last, a lot of people think Bitcoin and crypto is not going to last. But you'd be surprised, because you have bigger people in the industry, you have bigger entrepreneurs, you have bigger corporations coming in and saying, hey, we could make something out of this.
So one last question to all of you, and then I'll leave it to the audience. So do you think this war between government and private sector on crypto, on Bitcoin, etc., who do you think 10 years from now is going to prevail? Like you say, you hear Klaus Schwab saying, you won't have anything, you will not own anything, you're nothing but a piece of shit.
Eats the bugs.
You know, exactly. Who do you think in this war, and despite all the regulations, is going to win? The creativity of the entrepreneur and the brightness of this, or the overwhelming pressure and suppression of world governments who want to control your life, your destiny, and everything? I'm willing to place bets on this, because this is fundamental. Not even 10 years. We're talking about by 2030, 5-6 years from now. I'd like to have the opinion of each one of you, then we can turn it to the audience, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm of the clear opinion, especially after this bank fiasco I've been going through, that how corrupt the banks are on a global scale. They're all corrupt. It's horrible what they do to their customers, because they've got the money. They operate under this regulatory umbrella. They pay the regulators off. It's all glad handing, and don't even get me started.
So thank you, Tom. I get you.
But my opinion is that they can't stop DeFi. If I've got all my money in a thumb drive, they can't take it away from me.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. Andrew, you want to add to that, please?
Yeah. So first they laughed at us. Then they tried to ignore us for a bit.
Yeah.
Then they've been fighting us, and now we have 8 ETH ETFs and a bunch of Bitcoin ETFs. So it certainly appears that we're winning. And
I agree with you.
I would also say, like, people want to be free, so people are going to fight to be free. And banks and payment processors are like a vampire draining the blood out of our financial system and our economy. 3% on everything to the payment processors. You're talking about SWIFT. There is so much efficiency and so much money to be made in disrupting this incredibly archaic system that it is going to happen.
I'm going to build a statue in your name, Andrew. Thank you so much I agree with you 100%. You know, this is war. This is definitely something drastic has to happen.
And that's why they're fighting it so hard.
Exactly. And Anthony?
So long term, you know, I see the people coming out on top. Currently, it's arguable, right? The governments are adopting it because they realize it's something they can't control. But what they can do is, in mass volume, they can find a way to control it. In the way they educate people, they can find a way to control it. The way they run the media, correct? So the biggest thing here is, again, it comes into the renaissance of technology. Do you have educated individuals who, like what we're doing today, are ready to educate other entrepreneurs and people to make sure that they're always learning and ready to disrupt the market, right? It's like real estate. The market's always changing. You have to observe the news. You have to look at the multitude of factors that are always coming into play to make sure that you're out on top. So it comes down to people. If they don't want to be regulated, they need to make sure they stay on top of their game. It's like the Roadrunner, right? If you guys, I'm assuming everybody knows that. You guys might be shocked I know it, but
We're all
everybody
too
knows.
young, Anthony.
Everybody knows the Roadrunner, right? The Roadrunner is always running. He's always running, no matter whether it's a boulder or whatever
I
it
love
is.
it, man. What a
Right?
comparison.
And we're the Roadrunner.
Yes.
And we're gonna come out on top.
Yeah.
But you gotta start spreading information. You
You
gotta
have
start
to spread
educating
it. You
people.
have to spread the word.
Yeah.
And Barry, last but not least.
So let me take a different approach to this. And this is where we are in deciding if what I'm going to present to you is possibly going to happen. So imagine this. The government comes out with their own digital coin, right? I think they're doing that. And they go to everybody. I don't know if you've heard this before. They go to everybody, every United States citizen. They put a big campaign out there saying, listen, a lot of you guys are playing with this stuff called Bitcoin and this other. So let's just call it Bitcoin to cover all the different coins. And, how's that been treating you? You bought it in, 19, it dropped, you lost all your money and your friends lost it. And it's this thing that you don't know anything about. We can't help you with it when you lose it. People are stealing it left and right. What if you all give me all your Bitcoin and all that junk, and I will give you digital American-backed dollars for it. So it'll be the same dollars you have now, but it'll be in digital format. I'll buy your stuff. I'll buy your Bitcoin. All of it. Now you're backed by the US government. Then they take that, and what do? They tank Bitcoin. They put it on the market for 1 penny. And all us dummies buy it again. But the American people say, maybe I don't know about this Bitcoin stuff. I believe in America. So you're getting all the people out there. I'm not saying they're dumb. It's just easier.
Very, very dumb. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you say it. I'm being recorded. But the point is, I think that was kind of some sort of plan they thought of, is like, let's just take all of it off, give people real American dollars, and they'll be happy. And it's digital. We already live in the digital world. We all know that. So the point is, but we're getting to a point where people are becoming too smart. It's becoming too big. It's becoming real. So we'll find out where it goes. So they cannot stop it anymore. We're seeing the ETFs come through. But what they'll do is they'll find a way to regulate it. It just depends how far we push to keep them out of it. Because once they have control of the blockchains, which would be their digital blockchain, they have control like they've never had in our lives. They will know where you spend every penny, everything you do. That's what they want. So we need to continue to fight against them.
I like the word backed by the power of the US government. What government? $35 trillion in debt, corruption all over, all banks are bankrupt.
But that's all the Americans know at this point. We live on dollars.
This is exactly,
anyway.
so coming back to education, to all what you're
There's nothing to be afraid of. Janet Yellen's in charge.
There you go.
All right, guys, I talk too much. Let's leave it for the audience. Any questions you have?
Great panel. So, back in the day, I played some video games, and I played this game called Guild Wars. And the first time I ever realized the transition between reality and fantasy financially was I wanted to get my character to be really powerful. So I went in and I spent real money to upgrade my character. And chillingly, a fake person in the game came up and handed me a bunch of gold so that I could go buy armor and weapons and all that other kind of stuff. I bring that up in the concept of how much, especially for entrepreneurial folks that are trying to kind of go against these large corporations, how much do you recommend that businesses be based on virtual currency as opposed to real currency, and the whole concept between something tangible and intangible in the face of corporate greed and kind of squishing the small companies out? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you design a company to utilize this kind of upward market trend with virtual currency against the huge overpowering current of everything else?
Yeah, great question. So that's the thing. Right?
Go ahead.
Everything's already digital. Your money's not real money. Pietro, if you wanted to go take $1 million out of the bank right now, this evening, they're not gonna hand it to you. Your money's being loaned out. It's being handed out. All the money doesn't actually exist. It's a facade. Your currency is already digital. They've tricked you into thinking, right? I mean, I could go tomorrow, pull out 10 grand, grade a couple pennies, right? But when the real money comes, right? You have investors with Tom over here who can't even access their money. Because now, what does that do? It causes a collapse of the banking system. Because they've taken your money and they've loaned it out to other people on the ideal that, hey, you guys have $1, when it's already all digital currency. And they've manipulated the storyline pretty much to brainwash the average American into thinking, hey, great, awesome, you have this money in your bank, you have $1 million in your bank, you put your money in your 401k and your Roth IRA, and when you're 58, you're gonna be living the dream, man, with your $4 million and whatever, tax-free, right? No, that money doesn't exist to begin with.
The point is we're already on our way there, so either
Exactly.
join or get out of the way.
Exactly, so, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, but I bank with him. He's in control of all my money. Would you rather a guy you don't know be in control of all your money? Or would you rather take it into your own hands, do your own due diligence, and your losses be your own, not somebody else's, right?
And that's, in a nutshell, it's all digital, just like you said today. It's a matter of whether you control it 100% or you give it to the banks.
Yep.
So Beacon DeFi, we don't keep all of our money in a checking account. That to me would just be absurd, especially because this is what we do. We have a percentage of our business's capital in stablecoin farms, so earning 30 to 50% APR on cash equivalents. We have a percentage that's in market making position with majors. So we have more than 50% of our business capital on chain already. I would be terrified to have all of my money in a bank. Someone could freeze that and then I couldn't pay payroll. Something could happen. And with inflation, sitting in cash is the worst thing you can do. So I expect that we're on the bleeding edge of adopting that sort of thing, but why would you keep all of your money in a bank in 2024?
Absolutely. Thank
And
you.
his company teaches this, by the way, how to do all this.
Thank you. Pietro, go ahead.
My question is more of it's a loaded question, okay? And maybe you can answer my ignorance. So Bitcoin, to buy Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, you still need cash. They're gonna use the government as, don't underestimate the government because they have all the power, they own the army. So as much as we are together, they are still powerful. So when you're buying cryptocurrencies and you're putting it, and it's kind of I'll call it a speculative thing because a lot of people go in and it increases. What is the big plan? What is the big plan for you guys? You're not gonna bet everything on crypto. You're not gonna put everything because at the end of the day, even if it's gold, you need cash to buy gold. What do you need to buy gold if you don't need cash?
Any stable coin, any other
I understand,
equivalent.
but to start with the stable coin, right? It's created, right? You still need cash. You need cash, and then you say, when do you sell? You have to sell the Bitcoin, and you go back to cash, right?
No, we're moving to a world where you can utilize digital assets for your entire life. You don't need cash anymore. Yeah, you almost don't now.
It's not regulated, though.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's not regulated.
It's not regulated. So this is like a market that is being created, a little bit like the stock market, but it's completely different.
And we can get technical, but what he's referring to, there are specific tokens that are tied or pegged to dollars or fiat. There are.
But he does bring up,
Agreed.
we're trying to bridge the two worlds, okay? We've created an alternative to SWIFT. We need to be tapped into SWIFT. A lot of our intellectual property has to do with this integration. So we seek a bank in each country that we issue a stablecoin in to act as that fiat on-off ramp.
It still takes a governance. It still takes laws and rules to create that, to make it really legit.
But that's SWIFT. So we adhere, we team up with a bank in each country to act as our on-off ramp. So for instance, we have a Nigerian Naira stablecoin, have had for a number of years. Now, the Nigerian government has changed the rules sometimes. I mean, we've actually kind of shut down for a while when they say crypto's illegal, and then they came out with their own stablecoin. But they're not stopping us from doing our own. And we have a bank relationship over there that, again, is the on-off ramp to bring the fiat in, because we're not 100% of the way there. It's where it's going. But right now, we're trying to build those tools to bridge.
But here, you're absolutely right. Here's the deal. You can't use a credit card to buy crypto pretty much anymore. You can't, most banks or many banks will not let you buy crypto at all when they see where the money's going. So you have to, easiest way, and that's one of the toughest things getting involved, getting it. So you have to go to Coinbase, which is a regulated entity, call it government regulated, it's on Wall Street. So now you're 100% exposed because they have all your information, your social security number, where you live, your address and everything. They know what you're buying, and then they could track it to every place you move it, unless you really know what you're doing. But the average person is going to be tracked everywhere. So you're absolutely right. There's tremendous resistance to move to this. It's going to take time.
Is it correct to say the opportunity is now to leverage the fact that it's not regulated in certain areas?
Correct.
Transfer it, buy real estate. By buying real estate, you're surfacing it in another country, and that's why a lot of people are going to these places, and they're surfacing it. Now they make legit in non-tax countries.
Yeah, you can use crypto to buy real estate, so you do have a crossover in every area. Sure.
Yeah, the opportunity is not just now. It started a long time ago. Now it's picking up. The more
But I think the longer, the closer we're getting, isn't the door closing?
In the relationship to fiat?
In the relationship to non-regulated, to fiat. Eventually it'll become
somewhat regulated, yeah. I mean, there'll always be an outlier system, but there will be
It's going to be more
something.
and more regulated as time goes by.
as time goes by, so it's going to be just
So get in now.
So I have a little bit of some of the reference here. First of all, I don't think I kind of think we've won. I don't think this is obviously not financial advice, but I don't think it's going to get shut down, and I think it would be very hard for them to do it at this point. Yeah. But you're right. Like, there is going to be some regulation coming into the DeFi space. So what we're seeing, I think, is I'm expecting that we are going to see a KYC DeFi kind of space and also a no KYC space. So as more institutions are looking to adopt DeFi, they need to make sure that they are not interacting with sanctioned entities. So they need to operate in the KYC space, where maybe me, Andrew the individual, I don't necessarily have those same liabilities that they do.
Exactly.
So we're going to see some completely KYC chains, some non-KYC chains, and we're going to see some chains with a blend. So that kind of those guardrails are set up so that we have kind of the benefits of quote unquote regulation while also not having all of it shut down. If it's getting shut down, then it's just going to completely move offshore. But I don't think that's going to happen because the institutions want a piece of it.
We've created this blend between the two with our exchange. We have it's centralized and decentralized, where we're getting licenses in the countries we operate, but allow the 100 million MetaMask users to come in and buy and sell on the same platform.
Thanks, Tom.
So it's
Stan, go ahead.
bridge.
I heard you talking about what you've done, and how you've done it, and how you look at the market. However, what I'd really like to know is, what are some of the innovative strategies that you used to achieve long-term wealth creation, and how can these tactics be adopted by everyday investors, like people in the room here, to survive and thrive amidst the challenges of the market?
Get in. You know what I mean? Start somewhere. That's.
What are the strategies?
Well, the point is that you've got to, like anything, you've got to get some education. You do. In anything that's worthwhile, you got to get some education. And you do that reading, watching, and asking. That's really what it comes down to. We can tell you a coin to buy today, and it's going to be different tomorrow, just like the stock market. But it could be based on our experience. But until you have your own knowledge, it's worthless.
Exactly. The first thing you need to do strategically is to learn about it. So how does someone go about doing it?
You joined Beacon, but you read my book. Besides that, like I said, you can actually go and create an account right now on Coinbase. It's very user-friendly, it's regulated. You're not gonna make too much of a mistake to get started. And you can go in there and you can see some of the coins and they give you research and they give you some basis. That could be your first entrance. Then you're gonna move to your own custody where you'll have your own wallet. And it goes on from there. It won't make sense if I just start rattling off.
I wanted to take a stab at answering the piece of the question about like, what are the strategies? Because like kind of what I'm hearing is like, okay, yeah, I hear there's ways to make money in crypto, but how though? And like, I agree with Barry, like that is where you get started, is like how do I buy crypto on Coinbase? Okay, how do I buy a hardware wallet and like move the crypto into my own self-custody? And then literally everything else comes after that. But there are two main ways that people make money in crypto that does not involve like building your own thing and essentially being an entrepreneur in the space. Number one is speculating on asset prices. That's the easiest thing to do, is you can just buy some. You can just DCA ETH for the next 5 years, and in my not financial advice perspective, you're gonna do pretty well on that. Because I think it'll be way above 10 or 15K by then. The other part, and kind of what I focus on, what I am an expert on, and what Beacon's focus is essentially market making. So we provide liquidity and earn fees from people using our liquidity on chain. So this is a way that even if you are not part of a market making firm or have exposure to that, you can earn percentages of people trading, people borrowing on-chain activity by participating as a market maker. And that is something where if you got your security down pat and you know how to click the right buttons, you can get into those positions and start earning those fees. And that can vary extremely widely, from 10% APR to hundreds of percent of APR, depending on the risks associated with the specific assets. But that is the basic strategy in DeFi. That is, other than speculation, the place that people are actually making money in DeFi is through market making.
Imagine if you could, DCA is dollar cost averaging, buying as it goes up and down. But in terms of what he's talking about, which is my favorite, and it's earning on fees and keeping it really simple. Imagine if you were able to get into a stock and every time somebody bought and sold, you would get a percentage of those fees based on how much you held, right? Is there anything like that in the stock market? I'm trying to think of nothing that shares fees.
It's sort of like, it's almost, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of like selling a covered call. Maybe.
Yeah.
No, because it literally, if I bought Tesla today and I was in a specific, I make it real simple because we have pools and liquidity pools and things, but not get too complicated. If I was able to buy Tesla in a certain way so that when every one of you bought and sold Tesla, I would get a percentage of the fees based on how much of the pool I own. That's what we're talking about. And that's easily available when you know what you're doing. So he is right. You can buy and hold. You can play the stock market game with coins. Bet the ups and downs if you want. You can trade it, you can hold it, or you can learn new ways that don't exist in the world today. Your mind doesn't even understand it. These strategies are DeFi, decentralized finance, and it just opens up a whole world. And because the institutions are getting in, it's going to go crazy. But the most money to be made is right now.
The best analogy I can think of is to own a share in Visa or MasterCard or Charles Schwab to participate in the fees that they generate from credit card use.
Yeah. And I don't want to say it's dividends because that's paid directly. This is based on everybody trading. So you get into one with a hot stock and everybody's trading, you're going to get a lot of fees.
Look, all this information is available everywhere. Everywhere. If you have the patience to read, to study, to analyze, and then to pick and choose, and then to work with experts on that, at least when you talk to them, you know what the hell you're talking about. And they can best address your questions and help you in the process. It's all in there, in the World Wide Web. Everything is in there. Podcasts, interviews, books, you name it. It's all in there. But if you have the willingness to go for it, are really committed to it. Anyway, it's time to close. I'd like to close with each one of you giving a 1-minute closure. Then we'll go to dinner and we'll enjoy the rest of the evening. I really appreciate your time. You've been exceptional. And I commend you on what you've achieved so far, starting with Barry.
Sure. What I would say is get involved. And if you need to start with Coinbase, just dip your toes in it and it'll pique your interest. Just start simple. There's a lot of good things out there, a lot of opportunities. Start somewhere. Read, watch, or ask somebody who knows.
Thank you, Barry. Anthony?
I think there's a lot of inspiring things you guys have heard. Everybody's going to walk out of this room excited, right? Remember, trust but verify, right? Think, no impulsive decisions. Crypto is a great opportunity for people who invest. But, when you were a kid, you would probably start by buying something small and seeing if it worked out for you before you went all in, right? So at the end of the day, evaluate your options. See, hey, is crypto good for me to allocate some of my resources to, and a good investment for me to put some money away and see what I can do with it, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but evaluate, hey, what can I do with my money and my time? And is it worth my time to educate me on crypto?
Exactly. Is it worth my time? It's only a question of time. Time, this is the biggest and most important commodity.
If you do real estate and you own 50 apartment complexes and you're worth $100 million, maybe crypto's not for you. Maybe you own half of south of France. What's crypto going to do for you? You know what I mean? So it's really about evaluating where you're at and how you can pivot towards new success, right?
Thank you, Anthony.
I have to bring up one other thing. One thing you need to know is so many different words in this world, but two things you need to know. Don't FOMO and then ape. So FOMO means fear of missing out, which we do every day. And when you ape, it means you jump all in with everything you got. And that's a big problem. So.
Andrew, closing remarks?
So I want to take a quick step back from the DeFi stuff because I pretty much just talked DeFi and talk about crypto because I believe crypto is for everybody. It doesn't matter how much or how little money you have. Crypto at its core is self-sovereign money. You can store the money in your brain if you are able to memorize a 16-word sequence, and no one's going to be able to get that out of you, frankly, unless they torture you for it. So that is not something you can say about banks. That is not something you can say about cash in your wallet. Unless someone freezes your brain, like they can't freeze your access to some of your capital. So that is a huge paradigm shift. And I think it's super important from a ideological perspective. Second, if you want to, now I'm going to plug myself. If you want to learn more about me or get some free trainings, learn more about DeFi, you can go to beacondefi.io. That's beacondefi.io. Or catch me on the way out. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Tom?
It's in the bios too on the flyer, the original.
Yeah, we've talked a lot of the easy money, the speculative money has been, combed over. And there's 20,000, 30,000, God knows how many speculative tokens. So those gambling days, I think, are over. We're focused.
Not at all.
Well,
not even close.
We're focused more. Again, we're trying to deal with the banks and the regulators, so we're focused more on stable coins. But we're about to, and we talked about futures, which is very speculative, but again, $1 trillion industry. We're coming out with what we call an interest-bearing token internally. Think of it as a digital bearer bond. And we got a patent on it because you can put it into your hardware wallet, bury it in the backyard for a year, come back out, plug it in, and all the interest that you'd held will accrue. So it's just like a digital bearer bond, but done electronically. So we think this is going to, it's the bond industry is, I don't know how many trillions, and this is a whole new class of products that we think will be safer for people to get a very high yield and to be safe because you have it in your own pocket.
I'd like to announce that our next event is on June 20th. So mark your calendars, June 20th, 6 p.m. As a guest speaker, we're going to have a self-made New York billionaire coming to the event, who's going to sign his books for us. 125 books will be available. So it's going to be some really kick-ass events. And I hope to see you all in there. Thank you.